Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Studio Special Open Meeting, October the 26th, 2021 at 2 p.m. in Council Chambers. We'll first of all have the approval of the agenda, please. Thank you, Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett. All in favor? Thank you. And the adoption of some minutes from October the 12th. Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. And we will now go down to water matters. And this would be for water districts 8 and 9 financial accounts to report on expenditures from accounts payable for water councillors and council to receive for information purposes. Water district cash requirements to October the 26th are in the amount of $46,209.95. So, absolutely. Would you like to ask the questions first, and then we will adopt this? Go ahead.
Okay. We were supposed to get a response from Ministry of Forestry and Natural Resources, and for Rentag Canadian Inc. to explain what you weren't sure.
Mr. Zacco, those are chlorine tonners, and they were the same item that we buy repeatedly throughout the operating season. And I believe Mr. Zacco responded
Yeah,
to
he did send an
that
email.
request to you by email.
No, I didn't get it,
Oh,
No?
and I asked him.
Okay, you would have got it too. I saw it.
because we got it.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, you remember that?
I do
It
remember.
happened that
Yeah.
afternoon.
And it happens once a month. Am I correct? It's every time.
Well, it really depends. It's demand driven. It's how much water is going through the agricultural irrigation system and how much chlorine is injected.
Okay, on
The other question I asked is, I guess, when the agricultural irrigation systems are closed down, as is now the case, we send the partly utilized tonners back to them because we don't want to store them on site. My question was, well, can we get a refund for the unused portion thereof then?
Yes.
Because they said you'll be capable of weighing these and determining how much product's in them. So
Mhm.
they were going to figure that out. They don't have an answer to that question yet.
well, isn't this an awful lot of chlorine? Three big tanks in how much? Tanks.
Yeah, they're tonners, chlorine tonners.
Okay, well, how come I've never seen this before?
They utilize the same every year. And Director Bronstein said they were two totally different invoices, just
Yeah, different days, same products.
So
Yes, go ahead.
I take it that the town uses some too?
We would only build the water district for those used in the agricultural irrigation systems. Mr. Bronstein in the report had a indication of the total discharge to date this year as compared to previous years. And there's been 5,122,634 cubic meters of agricultural water discharge. That's quite a lot of water. I don't know what that is in liters. I guess it's 1,000 liters. So it's 50 million liters.
That's fine. We don't see the town bill, so we don't know. I just take your word for it.
Oh, no, I'm not.
No, but you do see the budget for that, right? And so if you see serious variation between 2020 and or 2021 and the budget for 2022 for chlorine, for agricultural water, you should note that and say, hey, what's going on here?
Oh, see, I just never seen this amount in all these years in 1 month. Now I remember these numbers.
Well, perhaps we could get Mr. Bronstein or Mr. Zackel to.
Yeah, well, they
send
got
an
that
email,
email.
Oh,
to
yeah,
our
that's
water
right.
Well, I
department.
take it there's some gonna go back, whether it be full cans or half cans or whatever.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. And my question was, did we get a refund on unused portions? And I didn't get an answer yet, so they were gonna ask.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, like I say, I just never seen this amount in my life. Actually, 32 years. Cuts, it sort of caught my eye in 1 month.
we can certainly look back at the records from last year and the year before and check, if we do have that.
I know that, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, and also, the other one was on, Ministry of Forest and, Natural Resources. You said that was for,
Those would be license fees and probably a volume-based consumption charge. And it probably looks different than it used to because there's been a
it does, that's. why I-
mistake in allocating the water licenses between the town of Oliver and the town of Osoyoos. And they had allocated fewer water licenses to the town of Osoyoos, going way back when they split solid up, than we were actually consuming. And so there was a reallocation. Some of the licenses were transferred to the town of Osoyoos, and they were taken from the town of Oliver.
Town of Oliver never caught on.
They got as much as they need.
Okay, but is this for the 8, 9 pump?
Which, AJ,
Oh, no, I'm just on the. Oh, no, it's not on there.
oh, that was on the last
That's the
report.
last one, and that one we were supposed to get.
Okay, well, we'll follow up with that, sure.
Okay, would that be, also you don't know, this for,
I can't say absolutely, I'm pretty certain what it is.
If I can, through Ellen.
Yep.
Ellen, would it be for drawing water out of the lake also?
well, no, it wouldn't be.
I don't think
So that's international water. That'd be federal, not provincial.
This would probably be a groundwater license,
Yeah,
but it may include lake water too, because I
Well,
think
I'm
the
just thinking-
province realized they've over allocated water rights generally.
Mhm.
And that if everybody took as much as their license, there'd be some real problems. So they're trying to put some, I think, price-based response into the market for water too.
That one there would be for well water,
It was Ministry of,
Ministry of.
Forest
Forestry and,
lands.
Natural resources,
okay,
because I get one in the spring.
sure, we'll find out.
Thank you.
Let's move on.
So-
We'll do it.
Okay, so move. He
Moved
moved.
and seconded.
Well, he moved. I'll second.
Okay. Counselor Appleby is moving, Counselor Moore is seconding that option 1, that we receive the requirements as referenced for information purposes. Okay, all in favor? Thanks, everybody. All right, next is the report from the Okanagan Basin Water Board of October the 8th. And I believe at the last meeting, I talked a little bit about this. And I explained about the hygrometric stations that are being installed in the Okanagan. There used to be, I don't know, I think 150 of them or something, and it was way down to like 20. And so the OBWB is now installing a few more so that they can get good information on water. And I told you about that aqua hacking challenge about the backpacks with the mobile filtration system. So I think I mentioned these things on here and the source water protection toolkit. Do we have that yet? No, okay. So unless there's any questions about the Okanagan Basin Water Board report, could we have a motion to accept it? Yes, to receive it. Thank you. Counselor King, Counselor Rose, all in favor. Thank you. And next is the Destination Vesuvius Board appointment. Is that Mr. Chabot or Mrs. Hilson? Okay, good, thank you.
Council appoints a representative to the Destination Vesuvius Board for a 2-year term. At the regular open meeting of November 4th, 2019, council appointed Councillor Bennett as the town's appointee to the Destination Vesuvius Board. Destination Vesuvius requires a representative appointed by council to sit on their board for a 2-year term. This should be done by a council resolution, and the term for the appointment would be November 23rd, 2021, and would expire at the 2023 Destination Vesuvius AGM. However, after the next general local election, in November of 2022, council will review and confirm committee appointments, which will include the representative to the Destination Vesuvius Board. implications to the community, representation of taxpayers' interests on boards. Organizationally, none. Budget would be covered under expenses. Significant dates, destination of cities requires the town to appoint a member to serve on the board and be appointed prior to their AGM, which is being held on November 23rd of this year. And sustainability, a voice on decisions that could impact the Soyuz. So options before council are that council appoint either mayor or councillor of their choosing to be appointed to the Destination of Soyuz Board for the term November 23rd, 2021, and expires at the 2023 DO AGM. Or two, that town council appoint a different representative to serve on the Destination of Soyuz Board. And recommendation is that council chooses one of its members to represent the town on the Destination of Soyuz Board for the term November 23rd until the AGM in 2020.
Thank you. Councillor Rhodes.
Councilor Cordova, I'd like to nominate Councilor Bennett.
You're seconding that? Any other
Is he
nominations?
still interested? Though? Is he
I
gonna
think
accept?
so. Well, let's not want to sign this bracket. Okay, so the option is to appoint Councillor Bennett to the DO board until the AGM in 2023. All in favor? Thank you very much. Congratulations, Councillor Bennett. Okay, next is the general net payroll and Sun Bowl Arena financial accounts. And that's to report on expenditures from accounts payable and payroll information for council to receive for information purposes. So general, up to October the 26th, 2021, general cash requirements, $444,547.29. Sun Bowl cash requirements of $13,042.28, and net payroll accounts of $98,789.55. So the options are for us to receive those three cash requirements as printed, or two, to request additional information. Someone like to make a motion here, please? Thank you, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll move the staff recommended option number 1.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. And we will now go down to the zoning amendment bylaw, and that would be okay, and we need you on camera, so you're going to have to make sure that, can we see her on camera?
Just up a little bit, Ms. McKay, just, yes. Will you
Okay.
face council? Yes, thank you.
You're not Walter Crowe, okay?
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Recordoff. I'm actually very pleased to be here today with you to discuss this proposed zoning amendment to property located at 8,000 Cottonwood. The owner is Focus Architecture. The applicant is Cottonwood Lakeshore Developments. And of course, we're very familiar with where this property is located, legally described as Lot 1, District Lot 41, SDYD Plan 87359. Current designation is official community plan is comprehensive development. And just as a side note, we left it as comprehensive development in the OCP that's now sitting at first reading because we knew something was going to come forward. So the proposed zoning is CD 11 or comprehensive zone 11, and that's a change from comprehensive zone 7. So the purpose of this report is request that council consider zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.140, which the amending bylaw, if adopted, would allow for a new comprehensive development zone to be added to the bylaw, zoning bylaw. So I'll just describe a little bit more of it. So the property's corpus is located at the north end of Cottonwood Drive, adjacent to Studios Park. It's vacant property. It was the subject of a previously approved development proposal. The current zoning, which is CD 7, allows for a 7-story multifamily condominium development with up to 171 units in a mixed residential, resort residential and commercial zone. I'm going to describe that a little bit further to you later on. So the current proposal is for a total of actually 58 units. Make that change in the report, that it doesn't affect the bylaw, and which consists of 6 single-family homes and 16 townhomes in 3 buildings and a 36-unit condominium complex with underbuilding parking and an open-air garage area. The proposal also includes an amenity building with a pool and a proposed strata mortgage facility fronting the property. And we'll also discuss that a little bit further. So the current designation of the property is comprehensive development. The designation was approved and they're concurrent with the rezoning in 2007, which created the CD7 zone. The rezoning to a new comprehensive development zone is therefore in conformance with the town's OCP. So now the multifamily development permit area. The property is falls under the multifamily development permit area. So the CD11 zone will require the issuance of a development permit in conformance with those guidelines in the OCP. So the guidelines set forth a threshold of design expectations which must be demonstrated in each project in town. Now, these guidelines include the use of earth tones and soft muted colors in addition to simple or plain geometry. The proposed buildings include tones of gray, black, tan, and white, and these color palettes are aligned with the town's vision outlined in the OCP. Now, attachment 3 to my report includes artistic renderings of the site and shows the distribution of the proposed colors across the buildings. The massing of the buildings is appropriate for the site, and the varied dwelling units are set back from the lake, which also provides optimum lake views for residents, but also maintains that attractive view from the lake itself. In other words, when you're on the lake and you're looking at the development, it looks like it's stepped back rather than having a large wall. So the draft development permit, inclusive of landscaping plans, will be provided to council as part of the public hearing package. Okay, so zoning now, let's talk about the zoning. Subject property is currently zoned CD7. And then many local governments, of course, as we know, use the comprehensive development zones to package site-specific land use regulations where an existing category for the proposed use does not exist. This allows for us to state things like density and siting requirements, along with parking, etc. So the subject property was rezoned in 2007 to allow for a comprehensively planned multiple family project. The CD zoning allowed for the CD7 is a resort multiple family dwellings. That's a commercial use. For those that don't recall, a Village on the Lake has that zoning as well. Multiple family dwellings, a licensed establishment, a restaurant, and a retail store with a maximum height permitted in the CD7 zone of 24 meters. So now the zoning bylaw actually defines multiple family dwelling as a business operated with a rental pool scheme and guest registration, much the same as a hotel or motel. So the proposed CD11 zone, I would consider that a down zoning from what is currently being permitted on the property. Restrictive covenants, you may be well aware there are 2 restrictive covenants registered on title of the property. The first is the one which prohibits the development of a foreshore marina. The covenant was registered as part of the previously approved CD7 zone. And of course, the intent was to prevent a marina from being located adjacent to the public park. Now, it's staff's understanding that a pier was at one time proposed to be located in the Cedars Park. However, the pier is no longer being considered at that location. So the new owners of 8,000 Cottonwood are seeking council approval to remove the covenant concurrent with final adoption of the new zoning amendment and bylaw. Removal of the covenant would allow for an appropriately scaled strata marina to be located in the foreshore of the property. Of course, that's subject to all applicable provincial requirements as well. Now, amendment to the town's foreshore lake zoning bylaw would also be required in order to proceed with the strata mortgage facility. And staff are supportive of the strata marina going at this location, as it's going to be similar in nature to the other ones that you see along Cottonwood Drive. There's also a second covenant that was registered at the time the CD7 zone was adopted, and that was the density bonusing covenant, and that is no longer relevant, and we'll also be requesting that that be removed should council choose to move forward with the zone amending bylaw. Now, the foreshore lake development permit. So the riparian areas protection regulation, which was enacted under Section 12 of the Fish Protection Act in 2004, and then it was subsequently retitled the Riparian Areas Protection Act, or as we all call it, the RAPPER. So the RAPPER calls on local governments to protect riparian areas during any sort of development, residential, commercial, industrial. And that requires a qualified environmental professional conduct a science-based assessment of the area. So the developer has retained the services of QEP to perform the reconnaissance work on the site, and they have been in touch with us. And we've discussed the proposed development, as you see in the amending bylaw and in the schematics that are provided here. Now, following council's review of the proposal, that report that's prepared by the QEP would be forwarded to the province. I don't anticipate any problems at that area time, but I will report back to council. So the proposed strata marina will also require an additional foreshore study. And the layout of the marina has to be again aligned with provincial best practices, and I've provided a link for you there in the report in case you wanted to learn more about that. So again, issuance of both these permits, the foreshore lake development permit, and then of course the form and character development permit are also a requirement of final approval of rezoning, and also approval of the first subdivision. The first subdivision is the dedication of that road end. We're going to talk a little bit more about that right now. So as identified in aerial photograph, the existing turnaround, which is at the end of Cottonwood Drive, it's actually located partially on the subject property. So when it was constructed, that portion of the property was never dedicated to the town. So as part of the development approval process, that area will be dedicated to the town. And the developers also agreed to dedicating another portion of a roadway to the town, which is indicated in blue on the aerial photograph. And so that actually adjoins with the laneway that we have, and that is in the town's name, that extends from Cottonwood all the way to 45th. And we see that as an important pedestrian walkway and connectivity biking trail, but as evidenced by what took place this summer, we also see that as could be a future emergency exit from the north end of Cottonwood, or else from the OIB lands as well, if need be. So we'll be looking in the future to some sort of improvements about widening that, possibly paving it, some no posts in there, of course, to prevent vehicular traffic on a regular basis. But I have spoke with the fire chief about it, and he's very much in favor of seeing that implemented. So again, staff are in support of the new proposal to develop the site with a mix of residential uses. The proposed development is scaled appropriately for the site, and the proposed height of the building at 24 meters for the condominium building only is the same as that which was permitted as part of the CD zone, the previous zoning, although much smaller density. For the community of course benefits from this new housing option, and the widening of the public lane provides for future emergency exit, and improved pedestrian access. Organizationally, the preliminary development proposal package has been forwarded to outside agencies, including the Ministry of Transportation, for comment, and any significant comments received through the referral process will be brought forward to you at the public hearing. I notice the development sign has been posted on the property, and then a notification of public hearing will be mailed and otherwise delivered to properties within 60 meters following first and second reading. Note that the sign has been also amended. I know it's also in the package, but it has been amended to reflect the appropriate number of townhomes. So again, a form of character development permit will be required, and that draft will be available at the public hearing as well. The proposed zoning amendment has no implication for the town's budget this time, although could probably interesting time to bring this up. Consideration may be given in the future to improvements to Estes Park, inclusive of defining and paving a parking area for visitors to the park. So that road end, we might consider improving that in the future. Significant dates, again, should first and second reading be granted. Staff will schedule a public hearing in November. Sustainability, the property is located within a municipally serviced area. And we've also received confirmation that services are readily available there to service the property. Again, options before council. Option 1 in 2 parts. 1A, council approves the application. 1B, council grants first and second reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.140. Or 2, council denies the application. Or 3, council requests additional information before proceeding further, and staff are recommending option number 1. Thank you
Thank you, Ms. McKay.
for your patience.
Yes, this is, it's an interesting development down there. And actually, day before yesterday, I walked along Cottonwood and took the little path that went up to 45th, but it's very narrow. So, like, it's just really for two people. So how, and there's grapes on one side. Is it the other side closest to the campground? that
Thank you, Mayor
would be
McCarta.
private?
It's actually dead, it's actually 9 meters wide.
Oh, so it's the campground that uses
Yes.
that space because there's a fence there.
So I've already spoken with a representative at Sioux Indian Band, and they agreed, particularly given the events of the summer, that they would like to work with us as well to have that widened to the area that's dedicated and have it paved. So they're willing to work with us, which is great.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Cordo. A question about the turnaround. I'm gonna call it a road that goes down to the lake.
Correct.
There's two or three, excuse me. There's 3 private water intake facilities at the end of that.
Right.
Is there anything taking place that might interfere with that or change that process down there or
Okay.
it's kind of a loaded question, I know, because they are privately owned, I believe.
Well, thank you, Counselor. That's a very good question. Through the chair. No, there's nothing related to this particular application that has any effect on those water intakes and there are water intakes for agricultural uses, just in case anybody's wondering, that's what they're there for. But we'd certainly, if I may say, look into that if we were to make any improvements to that road end.
Go ahead,
Thank you,
Councilor
Mayor.
King.
I guess the developers are aware of the water table down there. Or
That's
there'll be some
correct.
Type of engineering report come forward, I guess.
Thank you, Counselor King. Yes, they are aware, and yes, they have had an engineering report. Thank you.
So can I ask about the 60-meter radius that, you mail the,
Correct.
the notices to? The closest one to this is, Luna Rosa, I think. So
Yes.
does it just get mailed, if you do one, does it only get mailed to the sort of strata council there? Is that how you do it, or you don't do it to each individual
actually,
property owner?
Thank you, Mayor McCourt. That's a very good question. No, we mail it to each and every person in Luna Rosa. And
Okay.
then, of course, the property kitty corner that's identified as agricultural would also get it. And then the Sioux Indian Band would also receive notification.
Okay.
It's hand delivered to the same properties it's mailed to. So.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
I'll move option 1A, council approves the application.
Okay, that's 1A. Are you seconding that, Councilor Rhodes? Okay, any other concerns or questions about this? All in favor? Thank you. And how about 1B? Okay, Councilor Bennett is moving that. Councilor Rhodes is seconding that. Any other concerns? That sort of allows us to then start the procedure. Ms. McKay of contacting all of the agencies.
That's correct.
Good.
I have one more
Go
question.
ahead.
Well, you're working with the foreshore around the whole lake, and I guess this piece of property will also be looked at, sir. I don't know how to really ask the
Thank
question.
you, Counselor King. Can you define working with the full foreshore around the
Well,
lake?
you
Because I
talked
suddenly got
about
very tired.
Doing some type of study with the foreshore.
The-
Right, on the lake.
Yes.
This would be part of the foreshore.
That's correct.
of the lake.
So the foreshore and lake zoning bylaw.
Yes.
review
That's what-
and-
Yes,
yeah,
correct. Thank you.
okay. Yeah, it's gonna be a little tricky, isn't it? Because it is a low, it's that property can be quite wet if
Right.
we have floods. So what we need to do is work with the water people at the water forum. Here I am again, because they will have all that kind of information
Thank you.
to help make
Yes.
this easier to deal with.
That's a good point, Mayor McCartney. And just so everyone has a certain level of comfort, all development is required to conform to the flood level standards that are set for our community. And they're well aware of that, and the development is being planned such that it conforms to that.
Good, okay. So have we voted on
No.
that? We the second one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We voted on it, so there. Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
so there's nothing else that at water counselors are you, I assume that you stayed because you might be interested in this, is that?
Well,
Yeah, Did you have a question?
Me, no.
Oh, okay, all right. So, are we finished with this?
Yes, thank you
tonight?
very, yes,
You also mentioned that there would be a public hearing.
yes.
That is not planned at this point because you have some other things to do first.
So we're going to schedule it for the second meeting in November. And
Oh, so it's coming up in 2 weeks.
the second meeting in November, the first meeting is November 9th.
So it's the 23rd.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
So it will be during the meeting? or
That's
at
correct.
This one, the-
Yes,
night? Okay.
thank
Good,
you.
good meeting. Okay, thank you, Ms. McKay.
I should just mention, if you don't mind, Mayor McCarter.
Sure.
That Mr. Primo is here and representing the applicant at this particular meeting, so
Okay.
that's why Mr. Primo's in the audience.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We do not have, next on our list is the report from our CAO, Mr. Chabot.
No, you've got one more bylaw, your worship.
I apologize, that would be, I've ignored you twice now. Mrs.
I know,
Silson.
my feelings
I
are
do
hurt.
apologize.
That's okay, thank you.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the provincial government declared a state of emergency, which gave municipalities power under the Ministerial Order 192 to hold meetings electronically to conduct the regular business of the municipality. The provincial government lifted the state of emergency on July 1st, which meant that the authority for the town to hold electronic meetings under the COVID-related Measures Act expired on September 28th of 2021. On September 29th, 2021, the Municipal Affairs Statutes Amendments Act, or Bill 10, came into effect. The purpose of Bill 10 was to amend both the Community Charter and Local Government Act, and now expands the statutory authority through the town's procedure bylaw to conduct regular meetings and committee meetings by electronic communications. Currently, the town's council procedure bylaw 1367/2020 permits the council to conduct business electronically in special meetings. Staff have prepared an amendment to council procedure bylaw number 1367 with the proposed changes. Amending part 2, section 8 to permit a special council meeting, regular council meeting, closed council meeting, committee of the whole, or committee meetings to be conducted by electronic communications when approved by the corporate officer. Amending part 2, section 8 to permit a member of council or a council committee who is unable to attend a council or council committee meeting to participate by means of electronic or other communication facilities. And the proposed changes require that the member presiding at a special, regular, or closed council meeting or public or other hearing may not participate electronically. This requirement would not apply to committee or committee of the whole meetings. Further, the community charter lists the rules that apply to the amendment to the council procedure bylaw, that the facilities must enable the meetings participants to hear or watch and hear each other. The member presiding at a council, committee of the whole, or committee meeting must participate with audio video capabilities if the majority of members are participating with audio video capabilities. Public notice of a proposed amendment must be given, and facilities must enable the public to hear or watch the meeting at the specified place. So that would be in council chambers or another location with a designated municipal officer in attendance. Part 8, section 46 is amended to allow an opportunity for persons who believe their interest in property is affected to participate through electronic or other communication facilities, and that the public or other hearings can be held electronically. Although Bill 10 has amended the ability for municipalities to conduct business electronically, in-person attendance by council members at local government meetings supports the principles of transparency, accountability, accessibility, and fairness in decision-making. Electronic participation should be the exception and not the norm, and council members needed to participate electronically should only do so for good and sufficient reasons. During the COVID-19 pandemic, good and sufficient reasons include the prohibition on mass gatherings, reducing the risk of transmission, and protecting persons who may be immune compromised. So implications for the community are ensuring that council is providing accessible, accountable, and open and transparent government for the residents of our community. Organizationally, none. Budget, it's the cost of advertising twice in the Times Chronicle as per section 94 of the community charter. Significant dates, the bylaw would need to be passed in a timely fashion as regular council meetings, council committee meetings cannot be conducted electronically until this bylaw amendment is adopted. And sustainability, providing leadership and guidance for staff to staff and transparent good government to the residents of the Soyuz. So options before council is that council procedure amendment bylaw number 136701/2021 be read a first, second, and third time, and notice be given of council's intention to adopt an amended procedure bylaw as required by the community charter. 2, that council procedure amendment bylaw number 136701/2021 be referred to staff for changes. And 3, that council procedure amendment bylaw number 136701 be abandoned. And staff are recommending option 1, that council reads council procedure amendment bylaw number 136701/2021, and that the required notices be given pursuant to section 124(3) of the community charter.
Thank you. Are you moving option 1 then? Option, you're seconding it. Can I ask some questions? I'm a little bit confused about this because it's now open for us, like we're doing right now, all to be here, but there is still the option for someone to participate electronically
Yes.
if they wish.
Yes, so they amended the community charter to allow that prior. The only way that you could participate electronically is through special meetings. So that's why today's meeting is a special open meeting. It couldn't be a regular open because,
We haven't gone through this.
yes,
So, but it does say here that the person presiding, the chair then, it should be in attendance. Except it says this requirement would not apply to committee or committee of the whole meeting.
yes, because
So-
those are informal council meetings.
So in other words, we wouldn't need to the chair would not need to be here if,
If it was a committee of the whole or a council committee
Oh.
meeting, then the chair would not need to be sitting where you are
is that
today.
different than what we usually, I thought the chair always had to be in attendance.
Yes, that's their recommendation and
Oh.
the community charter.
Okay, well, it may take, a little sort of getting used to and getting you to check it. Go ahead, Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, not that this would happen, but technically you're saying all of us could zoom in for a meeting.
Except the chair.
Presiding member.
Oh, but
But
only
it's
for
also-
this kind of a meeting. I could zoom in
For
for
a
a committee of the whole meeting.
correct, yes.
So it'd be council regular, council special, council closed meeting, we need the chair to be in attendance,
Yes.
or a public hearing.
Okay,
Didn't it also say executive person too,
Yes, it would be myself,
like Alan or?
it would be myself,
Yeah.
Alan, or Gina.
Just because it would be really hard to manage, say, for instance, a public hearing with audio visual and people's Zoom participation.
yes,
If you weren't physically present, just maintaining the flow, and we could potentially have people in the gallery at the same time. So it could get a little bit tricky, right?
it doesn't sound to me like it would be even sensible for all of us to be on a Zoom meeting and have people physically here in the gallery. That doesn't.
There'd be some people without the facilities to enable electronic participation. but
Yeah,
They should be provided the
Yes.
opportunity to participate.
okay. All right, yes, Councillor Appleby.
A question to Brianna, I guess. I heard you say that if people are affected by a resolution of council or whatever the business is of the day, that they have the option of coming in by Zoom.
That's only for a public hearing, what a council has to be.
Okay, now, are we capable right now in regards to the public hearing that's coming up shortly? If half the people from Luna Rosa live in Alberta and want to participate?
Yes, we've already done that this year.
We have
Okay.
done it
That's
already
great.
before, yeah.
This amendment will have to be adopted, so it's gotta get advertised.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Tomorrow.
do we have the capability?
Yes, and we do.
Yeah.
We've had one that
Yeah.
lasted quite some time and I think, well, I don't know how many people we had on, 40 or 50.
50
I
some.
think
Yeah.
60 or 70. years.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have done it and they're capable of handling that.
Nice
Okay,
improvement.
so it's been moved and seconded that we go with option 1. I'll call the question. All in favor?
We get to vote because it's part of council.
No,
No,
this isn't a water matter.
It's part of the construction of council and we're members of the council. I'm just being a devil's advocate here.
Minutes are gonna note that it was carried unanimously, not record who voted how.
I'm just-
Yeah, I'm not sure, but we can check on that, but that doesn't, I don't think so. I think you're only allowed to vote on water matters.
And this is,
Yeah, you are.
This is not considered a water matter, is it? No,
We only can vote on water.
you don't?
We only,
Yes, that's what I just said. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Rhodes.
So for clarity, what about debate?
the same would hold true, water councillors would not generally participate, it's with the leave of council, really.
But they could
If
ask.
council feels like there's value, I mean, they are councillors in a fashion, right?
Yes.
They represent parts of the community as well, so. I'm not really hung up about that
No.
myself, it's up to council.
And I noticed, for example, in all over the water councils participate in all the agenda items. Sometimes it appears to be awkward, but most times there's a lot of real beneficial input to non-water related matters in their debate process. And I know lots of times, you know, with Claude and Bob, I understand that it's awkward to a point, but sometimes there's a lot of beneficial information that can be vetted out.
I guess it could be a bit of a slippery slope. You're allowing them, when strictly speaking, they're authorized to vote on water matters affecting the town and the rural districts served. What then stops you from allowing other members of the community to participate in those things?
Yeah.
So maybe I have a little bit more concern than originally.
Yeah, maybe first, when staff doesn't have anything else to do, maybe we can clarify that. Perhaps by a resolution or something.
We're too.
You can have a.
Yeah, I'll find my.
But you know, I appreciate the fact that they might be interested in listening to what's going on. And if they have either one of them have a question about it, I think we're certainly open to that.
Well,
But if you're gonna get up in front of the microphone and grandstand, no.
No, I guess, my thought was is that we're here to participate on behalf of the water users. I understand that.
Yeah.
But this is a council governance bylaw. And how you conduct business affects Claude and I, and also the people we represent.
Well, absolutely, but we would have to check with our corporate officer to see whether that fact was.
I'm just making that statement.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the answer is no.
Yeah. I know she
after
would,
30 years, he probably.
I know she would ask him that.
We gone through.
Participate, you can ask him first.
We can, we
Ask
could
them.
ask, like at council, with council's approval, we
Yeah.
could ask them to comment on something. Or we could allow them to question, is that correct?
I believe that's
Depending what it was, yeah.
Okay, we'll keep that on the back burner for a while and see what comes up. Okay, thank you.
We've gone through this before. The answer is no.
Okay, all right, well then,
correct. You know what?
you know. All right, so, we're finished with that, we voted on it, and everything good. All right, now could we have your sterling report, please?
Your worship, it would be an absolute pleasure. First of all, we had Mr. Zacco forward the information regarding the Brent tag
Okay,
invoices for the hunters. He did respond on September the 26th, everybody. Don't know why some of you didn't get it, but I looked at the water district budget for chlorine supplies as well. And the budgeted amount next year is the same as this year. So there's been no increase overall in utilization of tonners. The Glenroe bill for water licenses is a complex looking beast consisting of a whole bunch of items, including permit fees, and then some permits are based on the volume of water you're allowed to extract. Mr. Bronstein, I was explaining about the reallocation of water licenses between Oliver and Osoyoos, and that may have resulted in some variance in the amounts were invoiced by Glenroe for water licenses and consumption.
That is correct, CEO Chabot. We did have a discussion with the ministry in regards to that. originally what was happening is Oliver was paying actually the bulk of our water licenses. Huh?
No, we don't want them to find out.
Yeah, so that has now been reallocated and appropriately disbanded to both municipalities. So now we're paying for our aspect of the water license we weren't paying for before.
Do we need all the water licenses we've got?
Right now, we want to keep them where they are. It's easier to not use it than try to ask for more.
Did you happen to have a chance to ask Brentag about a refund on unused chlorine in the tonners that we return to them at the end of season?
I'm still getting clarification on that.
Okay.
But our assumption is yes, we do get credit for unused chlorine. in the tonners.
Okay, thank you. So-
Yeah, and so hopefully everybody receives those emails. I know how many of us can get. It's easy to have things get lost in the shuffle.
I see that they've been resent, so presumably,
Already know the answers.
okay.
Yeah, just go home and delete those. Okay, your worship, for myself, largely been dealing with some human resource and personnel matters, assisting the corporate officer with staff vacancies and postings and all manner of things like that. Reviewed all of the capital budget reports that council met all day yesterday and reviewed the 2022 to 2026 operating and capital budgets for the town of Vesuvius. Little bit of a highlight: community services, corporate services, operational services, and planning and development gave council operational update over the last quarter for the year earlier today. So I don't need to repeat a whole bunch of that, but just a couple of minor highlights. Staff are finalizing a report to council regarding the purchase of a new ice resurfacer for the Sun Bowl Arena. Bids were received and it was spec'd to be an electrically powered unit. So we're looking forward to that, forward to improved indoor air quality, the need for less air shoveling to deal with emissions in the building. That goes along with the real ice system that was implemented earlier this year that uses cold water instead of hot for ice resurfacing. And so we're looking forward to some energy savings for that facility. Community services staff are seeking to get a second quote for the scent garden. That's something that the Pioneer Walkway volunteers and age-friendly and accessibility committee support. We were unsuccessful in our grant application to the Canada Healthy Communities Initiative for that project, but there's still a budget exists and hope to complete it before the end of the year. Community park washrooms are now closed at 7 p.m. each night, and that applies only to the Goodman Park and the Marina washrooms. All the other washrooms are now closed for the season, with the exception of Town Hall, which is open during regular business hours, Monday to Friday, typically 8:30 to 4:30. You got an update about the improvements at Desert Park and the servicing of the RV sites there. Tender will be released any moment now for that work. We're optimistic and believe that it will come in under budget. Although we would design some additional electrical communications infrastructure to install there as well. May have a small impact on the budget. Corporate services, during the report, Mrs. Elson spoke about the number of job postings, interviews, positions awarded. It's been really busy for small organizations such as ours. Been working really hard, and then she's trying to get straightened out her new deputy as well. Ms. Robinson, we have to add her to a post. She's working on finalizing airport agreements for non-airport use for Wine Country Racing Association, the Penticton Model Airplane Club, and the Soyuz Model Airplane Club. Those three groups have happily all agreed to work well together and facilitate joint and shared use of that amenity out there. We haven't yet instituted any type of an administrative fee for these agreements, and something we may want to think about in the future, because there's a fair bit of staff time going into finalizing and preparing these agreements and putting reports on council. Probably just some type of a small amount to offset. You'll remember the archery club was paying I think it's $300 for a 2-year license to use the property up on Strawberry Creek Road. And somewhere in the neighborhood of $150. Might be appropriate, but perhaps that will be discussed in the next report, but the agreements you're negotiating right now, there's no fee.
No.
They do have expenses associated with it, too. They've got to proof of liability insurance, a fairly large amount, because of where they're operating.
Can I ask, I thought that some of the groups did pay a fee, or if they have the racing.
Wine
they-
Country Racing does, I think they pay 33%.
We get a percentage of the gross
Percentage of
revenue.
Yeah,
the
and they
take.
didn't have any events, I confirmed that again this year,
Yeah,
due to the
yes.
COVID restrictions.
Okay.
So they're hoping, there'd be more for PenMac and OMAC,
Okay.
but we have to restructure fees and charges by law. So that'll be done probably in 2022, but I have put them on notice that potentially maybe a small fee of like $250.
Okay.
Both user groups felt that that was fair.
All right, and so corporate services also working, requesting quotes for real property and marina insurance renewals for next year. About the insurance market as well as any of us, and expecting a bit of a hard market, hoping costs don't increase too much. Bylaw enforcement has been reassigned to report back to the corporate services department with the filling of the deputy position. A little bit more capacity there, take a bit of the load off the planning and development. They've been busy dealing with dogs at large, unsightlies, and miscellaneous and general complaints that come into the community. You all know what financial services has been doing, working on preparing the budget, presenting it to council, a big undertaking. We've got a meeting later this afternoon with the Soyuz Rural Fire Protection District to present the Soyuz Fire Department to them as well. They need to make a submission to the province with respect to their requisition before the end of this month, and that's why we stepped things up a little bit. And we talked a little bit yesterday about the challenges of kind of harmonize everything on an earlier time frame, so the council gets a look at the whole picture, user fees, utility fees, fire taxation, police taxation, presentation to the rural fire and to regional district for Sun Bowl. So we're getting there. Although we do acknowledge you didn't have much time to review a very large package that was only given to you last Friday. The fire department has finalized the design for the rapid response vehicle. Actually, construction has begun on the chassis to assemble it, and we hope it should be delivered in the next 4 or 5 months. They've been working on drafting operational guidelines and sort of improving the back end of fire service operations, some of the unsatisfied regulatory requirements, procedural requirements. So with the 3 of them working there, they're doing well. Got a waiting list of 6 new recruits, and they are finalizing the candidate screening process for those individuals. Planning and development, you heard about a big multifamily residential development proposal in north end of Cottonwood today. There are other multifamily development proposals that council will see in the near future. And of course, the LCP is going to come back to council soon with an anticipated adoption date by the end of February next year. At the airport, the first construction project, the runway expansion taxiway, has been awarded and an agreement has been signed. So those improvements that the Soyuz Airport Development Society is completing on behalf of the town with the Community Economic Recovery Incentive Program grant looks good so far. There's lots more to complete out there. Building permit values in excess of $25 million so far this year, with perhaps more to come. Operational services, noted earlier, the agricultural irrigation system, the seasonal shutdowns are occurring. There are the next steps being taken to deal with the WorkSafe identified areas for improvement dealing with toxic processed gases in a number of our infrastructure systems. Those form a large part of the budget impacts for next year that we looked at yesterday. Of course, there's fall cleanup. There's a lot of leaf litter and debris comes off the trees. It's beautiful out there right now, but entails an awful lot of cleanup. Sawyers Lake Water Main Crossing, a directional drill under the channel, scheduled to start in the next week or two. True is working on the east side servicing capacity review. Working on the final design and then tendering for the approved improvements to Legion Beach that are funded with the Tourism Dependent Communities Grant. Council will be meeting next Tuesday to review the Main Street pre-design work done by WSP. And had strong survey response. I think you had several hundred, 800, 500?
Yep.
Yeah, so good input from the community on that one. Discussed yesterday a fleet assessment coming forward to council for review. RFP for scale and other improvements. There has been concern about the pace at which the domestic twinning in agricultural water district 9 is taking place. We share those concerns. They're somewhat behind schedule. I think they've got until the end of November to complete that work, and after that, they start to get into the world of liquidated damages for non-completion and additional cost incurred by the town, something that they don't want to see happen. So we're optimistic that it'll be completed by the end of November.
Excuse me, could I ask, does that include paving of the roads? That,
Yes,
or is
so
that not part of the contract?
that is part of the contract, your worship, and yes, the
Thank you.
road should be paid by the end of the day.
Thank you.
The demolition of the old main wastewater pump station at Legion Beach is now complete. That site will be remediated after a new washroom facility is built, or. Yeah. And we're getting the fleet ready for winter operations. It's gonna be frigid on the weekend, and say low of -1 perhaps, so we're getting ready for it, your worship.
Thank you very much. We need to have a motion to receive the report. Thank you, Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes. All in favor? And council reports, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCord. Just glanced over my shoulder and I see Councillor Bennett has a multi-page report that, so I won't take too long. I wanted to mention that council is fully engaged in our budget process that began yesterday. We had a full day of budget related matters and worked through the proposed budget right now. Part of that process is public input, and anybody that has any ideas or opinions about anything regarding anything related to our budget in our community should probably get in touch with their favorite counselor and make those discussions, and if there's anything necessary to be pitched or added or taken away from the budget, that's a good opportunity to do that. We do have a bit of time. I believe that there'll be a public process sometime in January where individuals in the community can come to council and speak to budget matters. My point is, if anybody has any interest, you can get in touch with me or any of the other councillors with any ideas and opinions.
Good, thank you. Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last week attended the AGM and the announcement of a new contract at the Desert Center. And we're very happy to hear that it was actually awarded to a local company. That walkway is about 1.5 kilometers, so it's a major job. I hear they're going to be using a helicopter to take some of the wood out, so that would be exciting in itself. Also attended a Zoom meeting last week with Accessibility and Age Friendly Committee. We are on track for things we want to accomplish, and it seems every time we have a meeting, there's new things added that are needed in this town. So that's actually very exciting. And along with Councillor Rhodes, we did attend a budget meeting yesterday that was long but very interesting, and I'm sure the public will be happy to hear where we're spending their money.
That's my
Good, thank you. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Couple things, as you said, sorry, take too time. School District 53, education meeting. I think a lot of the emphasis now is on wellness and helping child and more opportunities to grow and learn. I think we give the students a sense of identity and belonging and more than just the education part of it, which is pretty exciting. I think that's good. October 14th, Central Ontario Mayors. I sat in for Mayor McCordoff, and it was really interesting because they talked about key issues and opportunities each community and each mayor speaks, and basically most of the stuff was the same as here: shortage of workers, affordable housing, climate change, the heat, better prepared. And basically October 14th, International Water Board. That was quite interesting because it's a little bit different than the water board. This is at an international level. I didn't realize that. So we have people from right around North America and Winnipeg and different places talking about the whole water system, not just Okanagan Lake. October 18th, we had the AGM for the Trail of Okanagan. You're elected to the board. October 20th, South Okanagan Chamber of Commerce had their first business networking live for quite a while. It's nice to go and visit business people. And there's probably 30-35 participants. And that's some new owners in town, which is nice. Some strange faces, which is really nice to see at the chamber. And October 21st, I had the Mayor's Roundtable, and basically most of that was to do with rolling out the third booster shots and concerns about professionals refusing shots in the area. And I think the mayor will speak more about that. Thank you.
I don't know, it wasn't that. You were. Thank you. Councillor Harvey,
Thank you. I don't have a report this week.
thank you. So a couple of things over the last 2 weeks. Of course, I was at the International Osoyoos Lake Board of Control AGM, which of course is held on MS Teams. And then I was at the public hearing, the public meeting that night as well, which is the one that Councillor Bennett attended. There were about, I think, 6 or 8 people that joined that meeting. Oftentimes when we have it in person, there are more people than that because it can be from both sides of the border. However, you know, it's always an interesting thing. And I was also on the, we presented the Osoyoos Lake Board of Control, also presented to the commissioners in Ottawa a couple of days later, and one of our board members presented, but there were several of us that were on the call to support him. Yes, Councillor King and I attended the Osoyoos Desert Center AGM, and it was a beautiful day, and it was warm and it wasn't windy, so it was really the perfect day to be out there. And we're happy that is, I think it's C3 Industries, is that what it's called? Councillor King, C3 Industries has been awarded the contract to remove the boardwalk, 1.5 kilometers of it, and put the new boardwalk in. So they're very happy. They're a local company, and they will be able to do this work during their their off season. So the most interesting thing is that there was a helicopter pilot who was there, and what they're doing, rather than running back and forth over the boardwalk with vehicles or something, they are cutting the boardwalk sections into 8 or 10 feet, or probably in meters, but anyway, that's what they said. And the helicopter is coming to lift these sections out and drop them down into the parking lot. And the first time the helicopter is coming tomorrow at 9:15 to do the first load. Well, I have another meeting on tomorrow, Regional Hospital District, and I know that our directors here have a meeting. But so I contacted Larry Stone, who of course is the project manager. He seems to take on these jobs quite often. And he said that there will be other times that the helicopter will be there. You may, if you happen to be out and about, you may be able to just see it. You can't go into the facility or anything, but then they closed off the parking lot there. So they're going to take them out, put them in the parking lot, and apparently quite a few of these sections have been spoken for. So we're happy to hear that. because that helps them with getting rid of the wood. And because it's quite dry, they've discovered that it probably weighs less than the original estimate. So it's going to be kind of a fun event, and they said this is going to save them some money, having this helicopter come in and pull it out rather than going back and forth. Anyway, great fun, and Councillor King and I were there at that meeting. Then I went up to the landfill because it was waste reduction week, and I took up quite a few, not that kind of waste. And I took up some of my, some black plastic trays and some glass and so on. And I met Neha from the Straits Times Chronicle, and she has just moved here just less than a year ago. So we went up and had a look at what was how it was arranged up there. And I deposited my recycling into the correct containers. And so she was quite interested, and it was kind of fun to show her what was going on. So Waste Reduction Week was good. I was also I attended, as I think I said yesterday, the SILGA. SILGA is the Southern Interior Local Government Association, which we are all members of. And they're going to have 3 or 4 small noon hour meetings. One of them was with Christina Bente on asset management, which we kind of talked about yesterday at our budget meeting. And it was quite interesting. I've heard her before, and it just sort of repeats the necessity of being proactive, not reactive, when you're coming to providing services for the town. Because while we can see parks and we can see roads, we don't often see the services that are provided underground, like the water and the sewer and that type of thing. So that was a good thing to attend. I also on Saturday went to the museum AGM, and it was the first time that they'd had this meeting in the museum across the street. They're still in the process of moving things from the old museum up to this one. And as a matter of fact, Kara and Celeste, who work there, the paid employees, they have spent many trips down to the old museum in Kara's van, picking up boxes and picking up what they can and transporting it back because they don't have any other way of doing it. There were a couple of things that took a moving company, like the old printing press that's in there. Anyway, the museum is now open. I think it's only open on Thursdays and Fridays. They're going to decide because they need a lot of work. So they thought they'd open it to the public. And also, they had an elections for their board of directors, and Matt Hassan, who has been the chair of this for several years, he was elected to the board, but he's not going to be the chair. So they will decide who the chair is. And Tony Brummett, who has been a board member for quite some time, 20 years, I believe, has designed a new logo that they're using for the museum, which has yellow, blue, and green on. Anyway, it was quite a nice meeting, and it seems to be working well and up and running. So I think we will apparently see this for another 50 years. Now, Larry Stone, who was the project manager of that as well, is worried that he's going to be out of a job. So if anybody has any other jobs for Larry, he's an amazing contractor and volunteer, as are many people in this town. So we were happy to try and find him something else to do. His wife asked us to do that, actually. And I've had several regional district meetings too, and as a matter of fact, Penticton they presented at our last regional district meeting on asset management. Seems to be the buzzword these days. So they're in the process of doing that. And I think it's called Spaces and Places. They have kind of a program that they've set up, so they came and presented that. And I will be attending the regional district next week for our annual general meeting and redoing office and chairs and that type of thing. So I think that was all that I had to say this time. So I will suggest that we need to move into the in-camera section of our next meeting. So pursuant to section 91 of the community charter, a part of a council meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to or is one or more of the following. Section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. So do we need a motion to? Yes, okay. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you. So